Hello.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Um, so should I make you co-host and Miriam host?
You can make me host and Miriam co-host.
Okay, yeah, because if
I'll start letting people in
that
every.
way you can take. Oh, now you have to make her co-host because I did you.
That's fine.
Sorry. Thank you, Leslie. I can't believe I did that word once. Yep.
Hello.
Oop, hello.
Harry, I have a question about tomorrow since we have a permit. Do you have time to mail out the permit?
Yes, but it'd have to be in like early morning because I have to be at work tomorrow for 10 a.m. if that's
Okay.
possible.
Well, I already have the permit all set for the bylaw permit. I'm having trouble with the EDEP platform, sometimes it gets stuck and it won't let me progress to submitting the permit. So if you want, you have the login credentials. If I have it all set up, you could just try to submit it yourself. Do you know how to do that?
Is it similar to what I did for Mr. Crossman, the RDA?
It's similar. You log in and you have to upload the certificate of vote and the attachment with the special conditions.
Okay.
And I have it drafted, so it's all set up with a proper number of signatures. Once you get it all submitted, you do an error check, and then after the error check, it progresses to the submit page, and I can't get it to do the error check. It may be that it's just having a rough time, and it'll be better later. I'll try after we finish the meeting tonight, but if I can't do it, maybe it'd be easier just to have you do it.
Okay. Yeah, I can I can try doing that.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's a very,
That website is very nitpicky. It likes to be the only thing running at all times if you're using it. So if you have like documents open and the Zoom, it kind of just like lags and stops.
that could be the issue. It absolutely won't work if you have any other tabs open, and usually you have to close out your browser completely and then restart the browser before it'll even let you log in. It's just like an antiquated platform.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just sent you the cover letter, which I think is all set, and that's a Holyoke mailing address.
Okay.
So at least you'll have that already. And then I've got the bylaw permit all set to go, and it's just the wetlands one that is not behaving.
Okay, so once I submit it, it's gonna give me a document to save.
Yeah, so what you do is you submit it, and then you go back to the homepage where you can go to recently submitted, and you should be able to download the Form 5, but it won't. It's really awkward because what it will download is just Form 5. It won't download the certificate of vote and the special conditions. So you have to then repackage it all back into a PDF to mail out.
Okay. Could you send, I don't think I have a digital copy of the certificate of vote. I haven't pulled it up, I think, from this laptop, so I might need that.
I will send it to you. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I've got another minute and then well, actually my clock says 6 o'clock. So let's start the meeting for the Shutesbury Conservation Commission. Do we have a quorum yet? I see Mary and Robin is here. I do not see Scott and Beth. So maybe we'll wait another minute.
Do they remember we're starting at 6?
I hope they did.
Oh, there's Beth.
Hello. Welcome. You're muted.
Hello.
Hi. Okay. Well, do you guys want to wait a couple more minutes and see if Scott comes before we dig into things?
Oh,
Sure.
Just-
I will note that I don't know if it's because I got transferred as host. It's not letting me just admit people. They're just automatically coming in, which isn't horrible, but
No, it's actually better. There's Scott.
yeah.
Hey there. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, good.
Okay.
Right.
So the first hour tonight is to talk about the draft bylaw. We got back the legal review yesterday with some suggested edits, which I have now incorporated into the draft. And I had a couple questions, so I sent it back to the town to see if we can get those questions answered. They weren't major ones, and we can take a look at those if you want. How do you guys want to proceed and structure this tonight? We're gonna have an hour. And Beth and Janice have to leave for another meeting at 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could just bring it up and we could, I mean, I hope We only have an hour, but we could just kind of start from the beginning and just
Yep.
look at if there's areas where people have questions.
Absolutely. Uh, so I got it open with all the track changes. I'm gonna screen share it. And I think this is gonna be a fairly informal meeting, so I think that if the public wants to ask questions, we certainly will invite and encourage anyone to ask questions. Okay, so here it is. And I will try to show you the comments as we go through it. And it looked like there were really, I thought, I was relieved to find out that there were really not a lot of comments, and that it seemed pretty straightforward what the feedback was. So
So I agree. I did look at it, and I think they explained most of the questions, and I didn't have any real problems with most of the requested edits.
okay.
Uh,
Well, let's just go through trying to get it to Zoom so you guys can see it. It's freezing on me. Okay, now it's gonna get too big again. Can you guys, I'm gonna not enlarge it too much, and then you guys can just enlarge it on your screen if you need to, okay?
Yep.
Yep.
So the first section, it is freezing on me. So the questions, I did send some questions to our town clerk today because, I have this legislative history here, which is usually at the heading of every bylaw, but I was a little unclear. First, I want to make sure the dates are correct, and I didn't have the article numbers. I don't know if we need those or not. But also for this draft, if this were adopted, I don't know whether the correct language is amended or replaced by. I'm a little unclear what the proper language is. Janice, do you know, or Beth? Carrie, yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head, but that's essentially what planning board did for their bylaw revision, is that they were replacing it and not amending it. So Deacon, Nathan, or Michael might know how to kind of format that.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll reach out and ask. This is not, I'm trying to highlight it, and it's not, maybe I can just change the text color.
I
Okay.
think it was a while ago now, but some of the times that the planning board at least has done some amendments that they had to say, like, second paragraph, this part of the sentence changes to this part of the sentence. And I think that may be something that you have to do as the amended. You have to show exactly what the differences are, but I'm not sure. While with replacing, I would think you wouldn't have to. That's
Okay.
my sense on it, but I'm not sure.
All right, so first section of the bylaw is the purposes. And the legal reviewer was Nathaniel Stevens, and his comments are over here. So he just, he said, we don't need to have this and mitigating effects because we say it elsewhere. And he had some suggestions to make some of these values more concise. Don't need short-term and long-term. That was really the only ones that I think were changes. Gail, you had a question?
Yeah, going back to the header, since it's on the warrant as replacing the 1987, I would suggest you simply leave off the first three things, which has to do with the original vote, plus it's an amendments, and simply go with the town meeting date.
Or
And you could
just
even
adopt
add
it.
replaces, but I think it's misleading to have all this amendment material at the top of the page when
Okay,
it's not.
Becky has her hand raised.
Miriam, you'll get a clear answer tomorrow. We just
Okay.
were making sure that we got it verified, because the amending versus replacing, planning board ran into issues when they tried to do it through the amendment. So we'll get you a clear answer
Very
tomorrow.
good. Okay, let's not get hung up there. Okay.
Yep.
So this is, okay, so these are basically the changes. They're very little changes based on the feedback we got. Oh, and yeah, so again, the comments to change, get rid of long-term and short-term. Any discussion before we move on?
I think they're, keep on moving.
And then here's a word change from the legal reviewer from Nathaniel to, instead of local statutes are not assumed to be exempt, are not automatically exempt. Okay, so there's just some language that makes clear the relationship between the bylaw and state law. Then jurisdiction. And just so people understand how this compares to the existing bylaw, we're not changing or increasing jurisdictional areas, except that we are adding riverfront area, which already is a fully protected resource area under state law. So, you know, the buffer zone under state law is not a protected resource area, but under state law, 200 feet out from a perennial stream is a protected resource area. So it did not exist as a protected category in 1987 when the original bylaw was passed. It was adopted, I think, in the 90s, maybe. But we want to make it consistent. We want to make that consistent with state law. Because we don't want to have the bylaw less restrictive than, or less protective, if you will, than state. Somebody is not on mute. Maybe I hear some background noise. But whoever who's, please be muted, who's not. All right, that's good. Okay.
Miriam, on that, just a question here. I can't, the way I have tried to zoom all the way out and I can zoom out more, but I can't see the comments the way that it is. So
I did email you guys the comments, but so here, Nathaniel Stevens, this language posed a significant threat. He thought that was not necessary. So he just said, you know, either delete it or modify it. So I just deleted it. And then this is just grammar. He didn't think it's necessary to have bordering and isolated called out. So I did that. This paragraph right here, he suggested was redundant. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He moved it down to the next section. So it hasn't been deleted. It's just been moved. Is that clear, Scott?
Yeah, thank you. It helps just to see his comments.
I'll
I know you sent it to me today, but I was at work. Didn't have time to look at it
so
yet.
under exemptions, we want to make sure that it's clear that agriculture is exempt because that's required under state law. And also, out of an abundance of caution, suggesting this language right here, which a number of towns have, which also make it clear that the bylaw exempts, you know, public health projects for mosquito control. So that there's no conflict between the bylaw and any, you know, pest management projects. That makes sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's reasonable. This language around exemptions for utility projects is almost verbatim what our existing bylaw has. There's really no change. And emergency projects is pretty much the same. And then the language here, and I borrowed from the Ipswich bylaw, and Nathaniel Stevens said this is a good thing to say. So that was nice to hear. So what it says is, other than stated in this section promulgated under this bylaw, the exceptions provided in the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations shall not apply. And then it says, further, this bylaw does not exempt those activities, the minor activities in 10.02, unless specifically cited in the regulations as adopted by the commission, which is what we've already done in our current regulations, is that we've adopted many of the minor exemptions in 10.02 2B. So this is just making it very clear that we have the authority to adopt regulations that can have additional exemptions.
Can I ask on that part, Miriam? So as envisioned, because I don't want derail us now by going through these comments, but I am wondering, this leaves open that in theory, we would go now back and look at our regulations. If this bylaw were to pass,
Yeah.
we would look at our existing regs.
Yep.
And then we would have an opportunity to look at, for instance, exemptions or other things under a new set of regulations that would stem from this bylaw.
We would update our regulations to make sure the language all agrees.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion or comments? I've got the screen minimized, so I may not see people, so let me know if I'm missing somebody who's got their hand raised. Okay. All right, the next section is really codifying these small projects, which we were advised we could review as administrative approvals without this section. But I thought, you know, so that there's never any argument about our ability to do it, having this section would make sense. I'm seeing the feedback. What Nathaniel Stevens said is, this is not in the MACC bylaw, not necessarily a bad thing to have. So, any comments or discussion about this section?
Looks good.
I agree.
Okay. All right. And then there were just some little tweaking that Nathaniel had. And then we're down, let's see, this comment, delete. Oh, yeah, he said delete this because it's more of a policy provision that could be in the bylaw regulations if we wanted, but didn't belong in the bylaw, so I deleted it. All right, moving on, section 5, applications and fees. Really not much comment from him. Here is a section about 4453G, and I asked a question because Attorney McGregor had talked about having specified fees, and I noticed that the Arlington bylaw had a fee table in it, and Nathaniel Stevens said that that's not required or necessary or recommended, and that that provision is outdated in the Arlington bylaws. So we don't have it. Down here, some language tweaked, where we talked about fees and that the commission, it said shall waive or may waive the filing fee for an RDA filed by a person other than the landowner or the landowner's representative. What we had written was somebody having no financial connection with the property. He thought that was vague. So I corrected this and asked the question of whether this was an improvement or not. Hopefully we'll hear back, or we could just delete the whole thing. And we could just adopt those kind of waivers under our bylaw regulations. Because we can still waive things under our regulations. So maybe
I think it's okay as amended.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Janice, what do you think? Beth? Scott?
The only question, so it says you can waive for government agencies, and then it says you can waive for someone other than the landowner. But what if it is the landowner? Can we waive? I mean, is that still saying we can? I kind of feel like it should just be a general statement of we can waive filing fees, you know, if the commission feels that that's the right, you know, sort of just a more general thing instead of specifically saying who.
I just worry that that's even more vague.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know.
Just take it out because we can still do this under our regulations, I think, because fees are adopted under the regulations. So we could define, you know, when waivers of fees would apply.
I like that approach
Yeah.
better, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so then we don't also have to wait for another round of review, so I'm taking it out. All right, notices and hearings, we've added certificates of mailing because that is allowed under state law and it's much less expensive than USPS certified return receipts. So that will be a savings for applicants of several $100s possibly, depending on how many abutters you have to send notices out to. I think that'll be helpful to people. And I put 100 feet for abutters, which is what is required under the Wetlands Protection Act, though under our zoning, it's 300 feet. So there's, a question, obviously, the bigger the abutter zone, the more abutters you're gonna have, so again, more expense.
I
And
think you
this
should
is
leave it
for-
at 100. That, I mean, that's, like you said, that's what the Wetlands Protection Act
Yes,
only requires.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
okay, moving on then. I think this is all the same. Here, he wanted it spelled out, so we spelled out determination of applicability. Down here, coordination with other boards, capitalized regulations, again, changing it to 100 feet instead of 300. And then under permits and conditions, spelling things out. He recommended taking this section out. Because it could be problematic and be considered as a taking of land. Some towns have this. That's why I added it. It was a number of towns had it, but I took it out. Okay, moving on. This is just minor wording changes. Nothing substantive. And then, this was if an applicant fails to perform the recording, the commission may record the documents and require the applicant to furnish the recording fee. And he said, not recommended as the commission could be liable for slander. Interesting. Because this is in a lot of bylaws, so, but okay, we took it out.
I think that's good. I mean, that's what the lawyer that I used to work for always said, is that we couldn't
Can't re-
record it in someone else's property.
Okay. All right. So he added a little bit of language about waivers that we have to determine that a hardship is not self-imposed. And I think that's a really good point.
Mhm.
And then again here, minor change, the word values,
Actually, next sentence too. Yeah.
take this out.
Well, it should be values instead of interest.
Yep. And then, Janice, you found a paragraph that was repetitious. I'm not really sure how that got into the draft. I
Yeah,
swear to God,
wasn't-
it wasn't there and then it was, so a little bit of a mystery and like a ghost in the machine.
Yeah, it
So-
was like parts of it were identical and parts of it were slightly different, like one had been
Right.
reworked and not the
So
other.
these two paragraphs were almost exactly the same. And so I don't see any reason to have them both. So, and, he was already recommending that we delete a section, this sentence right here, because it's repetitious and it's already described in other parts of the bylaw. So I had already deleted that. And then I deleted the whole thing because Janice pointed out this repetitious language. So here we are with a non-redundant paragraph about riverfront area. It's more concise because we took out this sentence. We don't need to repeat what the burden of proof is. And that's it.
Okay.
All right. And then there was a little or bordering land. And again, I'm not sure where that language came from, but it could be argued, somebody might misinterpret it to think that there's a buffer zone outside of riverfront area, which there is not. So I agree. Let's take that out. And then this is all other presumptions, and this is all taken basically verbatim from the model, the MAC model bylaw. And I don't know why this is spaced like that, but we'll fix that. All right. And then under amendments, Nathaniel suggested just taking this whole section out and we could just include this in the regulations. I thought it was some really good language about, you know, conditions under which you might amend a permit. I really liked some of this, just to kind of organize our conceptual thinking about how to, what kind of amendments would be, you know, what categories they are and perhaps how significant they are. But again, doesn't need to be in the bylaw. And then I think this section, this is all that needs to be in the bylaw, was this section right here. So that's good. And then he added a couple more words, little wording changes. Nothing else substantive. Any comments, or we're moving on? Then under regulations, again, no changes. And then under definitions, I had asked, are these sufficient? And he said, no, there are arguably too many already. You can put any others in the regulations. He did suggest taking a couple out, so I'm taking those out. The ones that he suggested taking out, I just removed. He didn't think we needed to define agriculture, and because it's already defined by the state law. And I don't think there was anything. He liked the cumulative effect. Definitely include this, so we don't want to take that out. And everything else. Oh, all this stuff about groundwater and intermittent streams, isolated land subject to flooding. He said, put those in the regulations. That's fine. They came from our regulations, so put them back. Isolated wetlands, took it all out. This other content out. That's what I did. All right. He had no comments about any of this. So I'm moving on. Any comments from any of you?
No, looks good so far.
Okay, security, section 11, no comments. This is fine. Enforcement. So here's a
So
question.
Miriam,
Yeah.
just in the last paragraph, that B in section 11, so he thought it was okay to leave in the part about accepting a conservation restriction only with the consent of the applicant. That had
Yeah.
been questionable a little bit with McGregor, right?
Well, this is verbatim from the MACC law.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Thanks.
So, and then under enforcement, so, you know, he didn't have any comments about any of this, except that when we talked about 21D,
Oh, yeah.
and this was a question I had, he said, check with town's general bylaws about chapter 40, 21D. So we do have a bylaw that adopts chapter 40, 21D. It's a separate bylaw, but it doesn't list any town boards that are up that this applies to. Some towns have bylaws where they actually spell out which boards have this authority, and our bylaw doesn't. So the question I have is, and I sent this back to the town, was, does our current bylaw need to be changed? Does the 21D bylaw need to be changed to list which boards, or is it okay as it is? And I think that we do need a legal opinion about that.
You remember, was it like 1989 or somewhere close to the same time as the bylaw that went in? It seemed to me
It was
pretty
89.
old. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
old.
okay.
And what I don't know, I can't judge, is does it need to list all the boards or not who have this authority, or is it enough with this bylaw, including 21D? So, you know, this 21D language exists in our current bylaw, and it was adopted like in the 90s, so later. Maybe in order to address that issue, and we need to get an opinion.
Yeah.
All right. So everything else, there were no comments about anything else under enforcement, burden of proof, appeals, severability. I had a question about the effective date, and really the question is, when it goes on the warrant, does it need to have the effective date, or can it have just blank? Because we don't know what the effective date will be until after it's approved by the Attorney General. So what goes into the language on the warrant? That's what I'm not sure about. So I asked town clerk to give us an opinion about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you wait until, you have no idea what the
Right.
timing will be, so you have to wait on that.
Right. I just don't know what needs to be on the warrant. Like, how do you put that in the warrant? Just blank to be determined?
I don't know.
So we'll find out about that tomorrow. And once I get that feedback, if there are some edits, I can change those edits and put that up on the websites. What I was gonna do is, if we came up with a cleaned up draft that we agree on tonight, then I would put this cleaned up draft on the website for everybody. Any discussion about this?
Yeah, I was pretty happy that it stood up and didn't have a lot of corrections from them, and that McGregor's commented that he thought it looked good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, good job, Miriam.
So, just as a segue from our last meeting in November, where we were sort of having this long discussion about doing a kind of piecemeal editing, after leaving that meeting and kind of looking at all the feedback, it just didn't make sense to me to do it that way. I felt like it was gonna be super confusing to try to have like paragraph by paragraph edits, and that it made more sense to just have one clean, updated, cohesive document to replace the existing bylaw.
That makes sense to me too.
Question for you. I agree. I'm wondering maybe next steps on, so when we get public input here, that is there another opportunity to edit this and get review based on additional public input we might get prior to going to town meeting, or can you talk about that? I know the time frame seems very compressed, and I'm just worried
It is.
about times
Well,
to be responsive.
So we have a public hearing this coming Monday. And my understanding is the select board needs this updated draft by the 19th. I don't know if that's actually right.
That's
Rita,
that's the date that they said set from the select board for meeting the
Becky has her hand raised. Becky, can you help us?
Yes, if we can get it on the 19th, that would be ideal. If you need, I think we have a little bit of room to play with, by the actual dates up to January 1st, basically. But with the holidays in there, we want to be real careful.
Right.
So if you need a little more time to complete the updates, there is some flexibility there.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
We just need, okay, wait a second.
Because I know
No,
you got to print them out and Grace has to go through
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I apologize. So the 19th is, yeah, no, I am right. The 19th is the last scheduled select board date, but they said if there's something that comes up that's important for them to meet again over the holidays for a short meeting, like if you can't,
Okay.
if the majority of your changes are already in, then we can move ahead. The issue is whatever gets submitted to the select board as a final, if there's any changes after that, you will have to amend on town meeting floor.
Okay.
So if just keep in communication. If you feel like you need more time, it's not, it'll be too much changes, but it sounds like you might be in good shape.
Yeah, my hope had been that we would have the public hearing, and then at the end of the meeting, we would try to keep some time designated at that night on the 18th to maybe vote on a final draft.
That would be great.
Then I could edit it or reformat it and send it to the select board for the 19th.
That would be perfect.
Okay, so I think one of the questions we should have now is a brief discussion about how we want to structure the public hearing. I think that typically you know, there's a little bit of a presentation that you would do. We could do, I don't want to spend as much time as we just spent, unless you guys feel like we need to. How do you want to do this?
I like the idea of giving a presentation on the high points of, you know, going through, I don't know if there are ways to, you know, I think speak to the high points while having the document there. And, but I do think trying to keep that more condensed and then getting input from folks would be the focus of the public hearing. So, because I agree with you, I think we could spend a lot of time going through the weeds of it and not have time to get to all the public comments.
Okay. Well,
I
I
think-
will, what,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, I think one thing you really want to point out is the differences between the old bylaw and the new bylaw. I mean, that may be the main thing you kind of present, these are the changes that we've made. Which, you know, in the end isn't gonna necessarily include all the changes that the McGregor, you know, like you don't have to get into the details of review comments and all the rest of it. It's just major points of what's different from old to new. Seems like what the main point would be.
The review comment.
You might want to just put, so all of the kind of little edits in wording, just put it in a different color and just say, you know, these were different wordings that were suggested that we incorporated, and people can just read that through when they look at it.
Okay,
Without
Well-
doing the comments anymore, just showing the final corrected copy with
Yeah.
things highlighted that were changed for whatever reason, you know.
okay. Well, and right now I did put up the edited version and track changes with the color changes up on the website. So that is up
Okay.
there. So,
I-
trying to do this as quickly as possible so people have as much time who are interested.
I wonder, Miriam, that document that you pulled together before, I thought that was so helpful that had like the old
Side by
bylaw
side.
and the new one.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you just update that. I don't think it's gonna change markedly, but to me, that was probably more helpful to focus the conversation than going through kind of word, you know, every word change. It
Don't
tells
wanna
them.
go through- Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we want to go through all the little, like,
Yeah.
we capitalize the R in regulations. I think we want to look at the substance and stuff, and it's really pretty, yeah, I can absolutely do that. So I will put that together, make it as short as I can possibly make it. So I think, you know, that's all pretty straightforward. The next question I have for the commission is that usually at a special town meeting, there would be a report that the sponsoring committee gives to the town meeting. And usually we would have some handouts as well. So I did start drafting some handouts. And given the, you know, I haven't finished that because I was waiting to get the legal review. But I think I can come up with a draft and send it to everybody and we could finalize that. Well, we're gonna meet on the 11th, so we do have another meeting before special town meeting, but it would be good to come up with some finalized handout language so that it can go up on our website, because I think that would be good too. Carrie, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, so I'm actually helping out with special town meeting this year.
Great.
So I'll be there, and if there's any like pamphlets or any kind of like documents you want me to get ready and have present, I don't know. I've never been to a town meeting before. I don't know if people show up early to like review stuff, but if you need documents put together for people to review, I can also do that as well.
Great. Yeah, I was thinking that we would have handouts. People will get a draft of the actual bylaw.
Mhm.
That's in the warrant, but I think an informational handout is also helpful to go along with it. So that was my thought about it. But
Okay.
but I think we should talk about who is going to do the report.
Well, you are, of course.
I thought it was your turn, Beth.
Oh.
Pretty sure it's
I mean,
your turn.
I don't mind. I do not mind speaking, but you know, you are the chair, so. But there
I'm
could be
happy to
two,
share
three.
this.
What?
I'm happy to share this.
Gosh,
So I think the other
think it's
question I
Scott-
had is
think
I
it is
think
Scott's, I'm pretty sure it's Scott's turn.
Scott?
No, I'm just joking. Go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry. Cut you off.
so the other question I had is I think this is going on the town website, I mean on the warrant listing as being sponsored by the Conservation Committee. I think it would be nice if there was also to be sponsored by the Select Board, since they really wanted us to do this. Is that something we need to request of them?
What are your thoughts?
I think Becky's trying to talk
Becky,
there.
yeah, Becky, you're muted.
I can take your request to them at their next board meeting, which is on Tuesday. And that makes, yeah, I'm sure they'll be happy to do that.
That would be wonderful. You know,
Yeah, thank you.
I
think we need to give them credit for pushing this forward too.
yes, and you know, really, I am very appreciative of the legal review we got and happy that we got it. Think it was a good choice on the part of the select board. And, you know, we've worked to make this bylaw based on MACC guidance because we felt like that was what the town wanted and town government wanted. So I'm hoping that, you know, we can all feel good about this. Thank you. All right. So again, back to the report. Who's doing the report?
I mean, we don't need to decide this tonight. Maybe we can talk
Okay.
talk a little bit more
Okay.
about what is going to be in the report, exactly how it's going to, but I don't mind presenting part of it.
Okay. Do we, Becky, can we have a PowerPoint up for special town meeting? Is that possible with the layout of everything? I know that people are up on the days on the stage, so. You're muted.
You're muted, Becky.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll check with the school and make sure that we have, sometimes they might prefer you to use a whiteboard. We can look into that. But otherwise it's draw down the big screen and then you guys bring if you have a laptop and we hook up the projector.
Okay.
to the
Well, I
power-
just think a picture is, I think it's a lot and it's really helpful for people to be seeing something visual as we're talking about it. So that would be great if you could find out.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
So it's a yes or no, we don't know yet.
Okay. All right, moving on. The next step, we will meet on the 11th, and I think the next step is, assuming that the bylaw is passed, is that we need to update the draft regulations. So what my plan was to go through the regulations and look at where the areas are that need to be updated. Where because of the new language, and you know, we're probably going to need a legal review again for those draft regulations. So I think that's something we need to ask the select board about, or whether possibly you know, the current legal reviewers could do that.
So if all we're doing is doing a couple of little updates, are we really going to need a legal review if we're just updating to match the bylaw?
I think it's a good idea. Hopefully it won't take very long. Because I mean, the major questions that came up before were, you know, areas where people felt that parts of the bylaw were outdated, but we're remedying all that. So I don't know. I think there has to be a legal review.
Yeah, I think to make sure that they agree with each other, I think, because when they don't agree, that's where legal jeopardy happens. So I think,
Okay.
I imagine the select board would be supportive of that legal review of the regulations too.
Okay, that would be great. So you will ask them that for us.
Yes, I
Okay.
will.
So the other question that came up, so Becky, and you caught the question that we had about 21D enforced, right?
Yeah.
And so can we get a legal opinion about that before?
Yeah. I think it was, yes, that's one of the questions that was more complicated in your list to Grace. And yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get an opinion on
that's
that.
like a legal, that's really a legal opinion question, but we do
Yeah.
need to know that, because if the 21D bylaw needs to be amended, then perhaps that should also be on the warrant. Whatever language needs to happen to make that bylaw up to date.
And I'm not sure if we can add another bylaw now, but we'll look into it.
Okay. And then the chapter 4022F is going to be on the warrant?
Yes,
right?
it's on the warrant.
Okay. All right. So Becky, do you want to give people a little update about the fee issue since you're here?
So I think at this point, Donna is asking that we hold until the chapter 4022F is passed on the hold on the fees until that passes town meeting. I'm sorry, I don't have all my notes on that to give you her full explanation. She, given the feedback she got from DOR, DOR became, they developed concerns. The core issue is elected bodies are able to vote their, well, without chapter 4022F, we're a little bit naked on fees. So I think that needs to pass so that we have the statutory background and flexibility for individual committees and boards to set their fees, and that will legalize what you've already done.
But also it needs to be approved by the select board. The fee structure would need to be fees.
Yes. Any fee structure brought forward by an appointed board needs to be approved by the select board.
So in the case where this bylaw, let's say it gets approved, the 22F gets approved, it has to go to the Attorney General. In that interim period, can we, once the select board approves the fees, can we charge fees in that interim period? Because it could be months until we get the Attorney General review.
Yeah, my understanding, once those two things are accomplished, yes, you'd
Okay.
be able to charge the new fees.
So what I would like to suggest then is that we set up a time to meet with the select board and go over kind of how we structure the fees and explain that rationale. But also those fees would not go into effect until we adopt new regulations, right? The existing regulations will become null and void once we have the special town meeting. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, the fees in the regulations
In our
would,
current regulations, we have to re-adopt the regulations, don't I believe?
Yeah, I
after
don't think
the
they become,
bylaws?
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think they become null and void. I think we need to amend them, but I think they stand as they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think anything has changed, will change them
Okay,
until if you vote to change them.
okay.
But
Then what
I believe what's missing is the authority to move
Okay.
forward with them. And once that is in place, my understanding is you should be able to use them.
okay. So
But
yeah,
we'll verify the timing and make sure that replacing your bylaw doesn't negatively impact the regulations in any way. I don't think it does. Greg hasn't mentioned that in any of
can you ask?
in the review. We can ask that question. Let's add that question to the 21D and the other few questions. We can add that question.
That's great. Okay. All right. I think that is kind of all I got. Any other discussion, any comments from the public or questions? All right, should we move on?
Mhm.
All
I
right.
think Gail has a question.
Gail's late, raise your
Gail,
hand.
go ahead.
I just had a question. What is the 41D bylaw you're referring to?
The 21D?
21D
Yeah,
bylaw?
so there is a bylaw that's passed, that exists, that is a town bylaw that was passed in 1989 that allows for non-criminal alternative enforcement fees. So
Oh, okay, okay. It's not called 21D, the bylaw is not got that.
21D, it's 21D.
Yep, but the bylaw doesn't have that word in the name, right?
Right. It's a
Okay.
non-criminal disposition
Got it.
bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Beth, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to my other meeting.
All right, well, thanks, Beth.
Okay. Have a
Too,
good
thank you.
Bye.
Okay. We have a public hearing in 15 minutes. Maybe we can go through some other aspects of the agenda. We have, I'm looking for the commission to approve joining MSMCP, the Massachusetts Society of Municipal Conservation Professionals. We usually pay their dues, and we did this year, it's $20. And that's usually like a regular
Make
thing.
a motion that we approve the fees. and
Second.
Subscriptions.
Oh, and also for the MACC handbook subscription,
Yes.
for everybody.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, is there a second?
I'd second.
Hey, David,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
Aye.
on.
Aye.
All right, moving that on. We've got an emergency certification to ratify for 140 Leonard Road for a tree removal. Motion to ratify,
Make a motion to ratify the emergency certification for 140 Leonard Road.
second,
I second.
David,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
Aye.
and Con. Did you say aye?
Aye.
Okay. Carrie, will you then, I'll give you the ratified version, and if you could mail that to them?
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be sent certified mail, because they already have it.
Okay.
I don't, okay. All right, we have 10 minutes. We have draft minutes. Let's do draft minutes for, August 23rd. Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yep.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the minutes for 8/23.
second,
I second.
okay, discussion? Nope. Okay, David,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
Aye.
and Con.
I have to abstain. I was absent.
Okay. Good catch. And then we have the draft minutes for August 30th. So everybody had a chance to review them?
Yep.
I'll move that we approve the draft minutes for August 30th.
Second.
Okay, David,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
Aye.
and Con, were you there?
I was, aye.
Okay, and then finally, we got 9/7. Everybody? All right. Motion, I move that we approve the draft minutes for September 7th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No. Okay. David,
Aye.
Font, I, Harrington,
Aye.
and Con.
Abstain. I was absent for that
Oh,
one too.
okay. All right, the annual report has, I sent a draft. Folks had a chance to review it,
Mhm.
and like, any discussion?
No.
Do I need to, pull it up? Do we want to review it?
Sure.
Okay, that I mentioned it, and now I'm realizing I don't have it up, so give me a sec. Yikes, where is it? Annual report, fiscal year, all right.
I have it too. If
I'm gonna pull it up right here, okay. Go ahead, Scott,
oh no, I just said I have it handy if you couldn't find it.
okay. All right. So regulatory activities. I included a paragraph here about town projects, because we had a lot of town projects in fiscal year 23 and some other big projects like the Camel Brook and Ames Pond. And then here's the data. One question I had about the data is this table is split. We have in the past kind of broken it down to see what percentage were reviewed in Lake Wyola, but this number, the 28, I included like town projects, like the culvert project and some emergency certs, which makes this number look much higher, but that is what it is. So the question is, should I include those numbers? Leave it as is, not include them?
I think they need to be reflected somewhere. That seems to me that makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah,
the reality is, you know, even if it's town projects, a lot of town projects down by the lake,
exactly.
the big part of what we do. So,
Can you
okay,
go back up for a minute?
yep.
Keep going. So we did the Ames Pond, the Kestrel Land Trust, the bridge.
Mhm.
What about the other site, the other project where we bought the property?
Oh, that's down below.
Okay, okay,
All the
no,
regulatory stuff.
okay.
But before you
Remove-
leave this one,
Okay.
Miriam, I'm wondering, I know we were keeping track of, where we were doing site visits on properties that maybe we determined we didn't have any jurisdictional wetland interest for the reason that we went to go do the site visit. And we were tracking that, but I can't easily pull that out of these numbers.
I only tracked it for that 1 year, so I'd have to go back and review all of them and track it, because I didn't track it for this fiscal year. I did it for fiscal year 22, but we didn't put it in the report. It was just for our own understanding.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, but you really, so of the 69 site visits we did, it looks like around 20 of them or 28 of them either ended with an RDA or
It's a
some
little
sort
hard
of,
to tell. That's a whole different number.
yeah.
There's 22 building permit applications. Some of them might have been RDAs or NOIs. Yeah. I mean, if you look at how many, there's 19 permit applications. And there were 22 building permit applications. So suggest maybe there were 3, but it doesn't quite work that way.
No.
Because these numbers, for example, you might have had a building permit application in fiscal year 22 that came in June, but we actually did the site visit in July. So it isn't exactly line up that way.
Okay. And are these categories prescribed, like our report, is that specified in terms of what we need to report on?
No, this is just what we've historically always had in the annual reports for as far as long as I've looked at them.
Okay.
Every town does it a little differently.
Okay, thank you, Miriam.
Okay. All right, so moving on, because we have a hearing in a few minutes. So we had the whole bylaw review discussion and the regulations. And then down here under conservation areas is where we had this discussion. And then under here is the whole West Quabbin woodlands acquisition. So here's the whole information about that. With some thank yous to people who helped. Also, I put in a thank you for Southbrook Conservation Area, because this fiscal year was when the volunteers replaced the footbridge last December with volunteer materials and labor. And then I have the membership. And then the little update about finances that we had in previous years.
Well, that looks good to me.
All
Need a
right.
motion to approve?
Okay, second. Somebody second?
Second,
Any discussion before I move on? Nope. Okay, David,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
aye.
and Con.
Aye.
Okay. Other things on the agenda, we still have a couple minutes before we can open the public hearing. We had the site visit, pre-construction site visit for 64 Lake Drive. I didn't go to it. Who was there? One of
I
you guys-
was.
Robin and I went,
Okay,
and it looks good. They did an excellent job with their pre-construction work and setting up
Yeah,
their.
I was very
repair.
impressed. I was very impressed. They said they did a lot of research and watch videos on correct way to do stuff, and I was very impressed.
great. All right, so just trying to see what else we've got. Before we get into the public hearing, I think we're almost. Okay. All right, I don't see anything. So why don't we just wait a minute? Got 2 minutes.
You want
Um,
to just do a quick update on the culvert?
Yeah, I haven't been down there. You want to give us an update?
The road is open, it's all paved. Most of all the barriers are all set up still. With all the rain, a lot of water flowing through there, but it looks like it's holding up really well, and everybody's excited that it's open now. Well, thank you to everybody for their patience while we were, they were getting that done, but they did a excellent job.
Yep.
Getting that all taken care of, and happy that it's done. Looks good.
It's great that it happened this year. I'm so glad it didn't get delayed. I'm so glad they were able to finish it. Also an update before we start the public hearing. It looks like perhaps the town is going to be submitting the notice of intent for the new library in January. I had an email inquiry from April Dorosky, so I'm suspecting that sometime in the next couple weeks, we will probably get that notice of intent. Sounded like. We only, right now, the way things are, we're only meeting once a month in January and February ordinarily. So that's where next meeting would be January 11th. So hopefully that will get on the agenda. We'll be able to have that public hearing. That's exciting. Glad to see it's moving along. Okay, I think we can, my clock says 7 o'clock, so let us open the continued public hearing for 56 Lake Drive, the Muskall family. I see Ward is there. Hi, Ward, welcome.
Hi.
And is anybody else here with you?
Lori and Lenny are supposed to be here. I don't know if they can chime in. They were unable to the last time.
Okay.
I don't know if they could get unmuted, but we continued last time for to revise our submittal. The original submittal was for extension of existing staircase in the lawn in the buffer zone to Lake Wyola. It was 280 square feet of proposed railroad ties and gravel as a safety measure because it's kind of a steep lawn in the back going down towards the water. But at the request of the commission, we've amended this to include the dock, which was never permitted. It's 3 4 by 10 foot aluminum frame sections. If you went to the site visit, you could see the dock is out of the water now on the lawn. It's in an L shape, so it extends out about 20 feet and then curves to the left for 10 feet. And it's got aluminum legs that go down into the water. There's nothing permanent installed in the land under a water body of Lake Wyola. I don't know if you want to chime in, Lenny.
So aluminum,
Oh.
I'm writing this down, aluminum dock with um, with no permanent,
I'm
would
not
you say
do
one
this.
more time,
It's either what?
no permanent footings? Okay,
Can try it.
Yeah, and we have not filed the chapter 91. What we're asking is the commission and make that a condition. And we will file this winter. No work is going to take place until spring or summer. So we have.
what we've done, Ward, with a couple of other projects is we just put in the conditions that we would not issue a certificate of compliance until a
Okay,
chapter license, 91 license was, recorded. So you have to get
Okay.
it. And you also have to record it at the registry and then,
yep,
show proof of that when you, request the certificate.
okay, I totally will do that. I've been asked by the applicants to do that. I'm just, we have no snow and everybody is in a panic for me to do wetland delineations and wetland delineations, and I would be happy to get about 3 feet of snow and put an end to that, but there's none of that in the forecast. So as soon as we get snow, I will be doing a lot of permitting, and this will be top of my list.
I had a question.
Yes,
The notice of intent was, prepared by you, right?
yes.
And the date, can you just give me the date of the notice of intent?
September 14th, 2023. That was the cover letter. I filed e-file with DEP.
Okay. And, the site plan, the revised site plan, is that also by Daniel, Sauls, or is that Green
Yes.
River Survey? Is that a different person?
You know, it's the same person.
So it's Daniel, is it Daniel Sauls?
Yes, that's
Sauls,
the, yeah, SALLS.
yeah, Green River Survey.
Green
Okay.
River Survey. So that
All
was we had the revised plan, which shows the dock on it.
Yeah. Okay, and we got NHSP signed off on it.
Yeah, they said no, not a take, no, will not adversely affect
Cool.
rare
Okay.
species.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
No,
No.
Okay. So, if commissioners feel like they have enough information, somebody want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
make a motion and close the public hearing for an NOI for 56 Lake Drive.
Second,
I second.
David,
Aye.
DeFont, aye. Harrington,
Aye.
Khan.
Aye.
Okay, so, I have the permit, the draft permit conditions. I'm gonna bring them up on screen share so we can go over them. And here they are. Couple question points along the way, but we'll get through this quickly because this is a simple project. All right, so this is all the information. I'm sorry. Okay. Here we have wetland plants. Okay. So this is what I have for the information, that it's 280 square feet of lawn, and the closest limit of work was 24 feet from the bank. No vegetation removal is proposed. Seeks approval of a 120 square foot seasonal dock. And then we have all this boilerplate language that we used with the other two NOIs that we recently permitted. And referencing the documents. It's in the aura of Lake Wyola and inland underwater bodies and waterways. Got a letter from NHSP. We're incorporating the general conditions that are in Form 5. And here we go. So here are all the standard boilerplate. Here, prior to the start of work and no later than 30 days from the issuance of this order, a letter with an original signature from the landowner saying that they've read the order of conditions and understand it, which should be mailed to us or dropped off by hand delivery. And then proof of having recorded the orders before any work commences. And then again, This was the recommendation from DP pursuant to conditions 1 and 3 of the forms. Full certificate of compliance shall not be issued until the applicant has furnished proof of having recorded a Chapter 91 license or has discontinued the dock. And should any substantive change, applicant will submit an amended order of conditions request. Because it's entire, there is always the potential that when they do the Chapter 91 license, that DEP would say, oh, you got to change something. So they should come back to us. The applicant would come back to us to see if that change requires an amended order or not. Need to have a DEP sign 2 feet by 2 feet. And erosion controls. Here I have, in lieu of a pre-construction site visit, or do we want to do a pre-construction site visit?
Okay, I don't think that's necessary for this project.
It's a small project, I agree. So, okay. No other work until so the applicant would send us an email with photographs showing us the erosion controls, and then we would give them the okay by email, and then they could proceed with the work. Is that all right? Notify us before the commencement of work. And then these are all just the standard boilerplate. Grass mix, using conservation grass mix. Post-construction, I got to change this lettering, this numbering. So those perpetual conditions that we usually put in. Oh, that's not right. Continue numbering. Ugh. Hold on, let me fix the numbering. All right, it's not behaving, so let me try it this way. All right, now it's behaving. Okay. Site, we'll have a post-construction site visit. Photographs after 12 months after the project is completed, pretty standard. And then we have a pesticides and or fertilizer perpetual conditions that we add as standard perpetual conditions for projects down by the lake. I'll fix the formatting here. Any discussion about this?
That's good.
Looks good.
All right, and do I have the commission's permission to sign digitally?
David, yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I would move to approve the order of conditions under the bylaw and the Wetlands Protection Act with the special conditions as edited. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, no discussion? David?
aye.
Yvonne, I, Harrington,
Aye.
and Khan.
Aye.
All right. So we will send you an email version of this, Ward and Mr. and Mrs. Muscal, and we will send a hard copy to the Holyoke address on Ogden Street. Is that the right address?
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ward. Okay. So we're moving along. It's going to be a short meeting. I've got a couple more agenda items. Let me find the agenda. Give me 1 sec. Got a lot of documents open. All right. So, the last item I think we've done everything except for chair recusal and then the 244 Baker Road matter. So I am going to make a statement. If you give me 1 second. I have notified the commission that I am recusing myself on all matters related to 244 Baker Road due to a series of complaints that have been filed, and out of an abundance of caution and my desire to avoid any appearance of a conflict of interest, I'm recusing myself. I did have a discussion with the Ethics Commission and was advised that I did not necessarily have to recuse myself, but I am recusing myself because I don't want there to be any concern that I have any bias or animus in any proceedings involving properties that we are reviewing. I will say, and I'm going to say this for the record, that there are some troubling reports that I have become aware of, including reports that have been submitted to the select board by the chief of police involving both me and some decisions that the Conservation Commission has made. I find those reports troubling and concerning. Some of them involved a public records request that we received from the chief of police back in May regarding Michael Hootstein and the Lot 032 oversight group. And as you may all recall, we consulted with counsel and acted on the advice of counsel. Beth Goodman and Donna McNichol advised us on how to respond. So I want to say for the record that any actions I took were, in my opinion, in concert with the advice being given by our legal counsel and decisions that were being made as a commission as a whole, not me personally. So I object to being singled out as being somehow engaging in some sort of improper action when we were following the advice of counsel. So I want to make that clear. There were some other allegations about me that were in this report from the chief of police that I also find troubling and untrue and have no basis in fact. So I want to make that very clear that I object to those complaints and don't believe that they should have been made. All right. So with that said, I don't know if there's any discussion you guys want to make about that. I see Amanda Alex has, well, let me ask the commission first if you guys have any comments about the commission. Go ahead.
I do at some point.
Go ahead, Robin.
I don't know if it's appropriate to say it now, but I've been at site visits there that you were at, and what they have said about you is totally untrue. And in fact, I'm intimidated by them. I do not ever want to do a site visit on that property again. I'm afraid of them unless I have a police officer with me. So there, that's out there.
And I agree with that, having been on the site visits. It is very difficult to conduct a site visit at that site with the owners.
Well, I dispute any allegation that I've behaved improperly or with any animus toward anybody on any site visit that I have attended since I've been a conservation commissioner, and all of the actions that I have taken have been totally within my official role and in my official capacity, not in any kind of personal capacity. So I do object to any allegation that I have done anything improper with any property. Certainly I don't have any animus or bias toward landowners that we interact with. Anyway, let's move on. I see Amanda has her hand raised. Amanda?
Hi, thanks. It wouldn't unmute for some reason. Hi, Miriam and everyone. First of all, I'd like to say I'm really sorry to hear that this is happening to you, Miriam. Second of all, I did hear the name of the Lot 032 remediation group mentioned. in reference to an investigation or some questions from the police chief, Shrewsbury Police Chief. Can you give me any color on that? This seems a little bit strange to me.
Well, I don't want to spend a lot of time relitigating this because honestly, and I'll give you a little snapshot because we've raised it, but in my opinion, this was a settled issue. I thought this was a done deal and we were done discussing this months ago. So it is surprising to me that this is getting re-brought up. But there was a public records request that we received back in May. And the Conservation Commission attempted to be responsive to it. We had some questions and we requested a time extension, which we're entitled to under certain circumstances. So we were attempting to negotiate that. And there was a lot of back and forth emails with town council. Well, with first my talking to Donna McNichol and then consulting with special counsel Beth Goodman, Attorney Goodman, advocated for the commission. And then the public records request was dropped. In the complaint that was filed, it was alleged that the request had been dropped because I was personally being so obstructionist that the police chief just gave up. And what we heard in the email from the police chief at the time was that she had everything she needed and that we shouldn't worry and that she wasn't asking for anything more. So it is, again, I dispute that I individually played a role in this. I think that it was a matter that our counsel was advising us on. And as far as I was aware, it was all settled when the chief of police told us she didn't need anything from us. And so I am just, don't know what to say, but I'm very confused that 6 months later, we are still having this coming up and would like to put this behind us.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't blame you guys for anything. I'll just have to investigate this more myself. Thank you.
Is there anything, commissioners, you want to say before we move on? Mary Lou Conca.
Hi, yes, Mary Lou Conca. I live on Wendell Road. And as a whole to you all commissioners, I just want to say thank you for the work that you're doing. And I think that it takes a really special kind of courage. And I appreciate your work. All righty.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, commissioners, do you want to have any? So what I'm saying at this point is I am hands off of anything involving Baker Road. So you should, Beth is also recused because the town of Amherst isn't a butter. And so because Beth is an employee of the town of Amherst in the Water Resources Department, she's recusing herself. So
This is disappointing to me because that means I can't refuse to go to site visits or do anything because I'd be one of the 3 required to make a decision on anything.
So I'm going to stop talking. You guys have a discussion. I'm going to mute myself.
No, I probably said too much. I'm probably already in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's too much more we can say at this point. I'm sure more to be heard in the future.
Is there something you want us to do here, Miriam, to move on from this part of the agenda, or I'm not sure.
You decide. When you're ready to move on, let me know.
I think we need to move on.
Right.
All right. Any other discussion we need to have tonight before we finish up?
So the only thing that I would say is the 244 Baker Road enforcement order follow-up. At the last visit, we did tell them that we would schedule a follow-up in the spring after winter had come to look at the status of things. So we will address that at that time.
Yep.
Right. Any other matters we need to talk about before we adjourn for tonight?
I don't
just
have
a-
anything else.
Okay.
I'd like
All
to
right.
thank you for all your hard work on the bylaw, Marion. That was a ton of work back and forth, so thank you.
We'll have to have a celebration when this is all done.
Oh, totally.
It was a lot of work, but it was also enjoyable, and I learned a lot. And one of the things that I have reflected on recently is how much of a learning curve and a steep learning curve it is when we join Conservation Commission, unless we're already wetlands scientists and professionals. It's I think it takes a good solid 3 years. And I've heard this said by other people that it takes 3 years before you even kind of get your sea legs and understand the lay of the land. And I feel like, I've been on the commission for a little over 3 years. I've been a chair for 2.5 years. And I feel like I'm just starting to understand fully, what is needed and how to do things. And so I appreciate these learning opportunities, and also I'm aware that, if you've been on a commission for 20 years, you have the benefit of those many years of experience, which none of us had coming on to here. Except for Robin, who's been on a lot longer than us.
No, I only
appreciate
joined
that
in September of 2019 after I retired in June of 2019. So it's been like what, 4 years, 4.5.
Okay.
And I
I'm sorry,
appreciate
but-
you sharing the things that you've learned with us too. It helps us grow and learn too.
Yeah. Thank you. Before we adjourn, I do have a question. It's for Carrie, because I don't know where things stand. Carrie, where are you at with, the last I'd heard that maybe you were going to be moving on in January, but I'm assuming.
So I've been waiting. So I took a step back from what I'm pursuing after this because I want to get caught up with my own work here. So that way the next person who comes along is in a better standing than I was when I started, because there's a lot of backlog from the past 2 years of COVID.
Yeah.
So that's what my main prerogative at this moment is. Once I'm caught up, then I'm going to pursue getting my license. And once I have my license, I will be searching for jobs, and I'm trying to hold out as long as I can for the sake of trying to train someone. But if I get my license and I find a new job and things line up, then unfortunately I would have to leave without a replacement for me to train.
Yeah.
So,
And as far as I know, we never got any applications when they posted. I think I'm hoping it's still up.
it's posted. They posted on different places as well. So they're really trying to reach out there. I think they've received maybe 1 or 2, but I don't know if they were worth investigating. I don't know what exactly they are looking for on their end. I believe the select board is looking through. I'm not entirely sure how the process works, to be honest. But yeah, that's all I'm aware of.
Is there a hiring committee?
I have no idea. I believe when I was hired, I'm not sure. All I know is that when I was hired, it was you, Becky, Deacon, because at the time he was the planning board chair. So in this case, it would be Nathan. And for zoning board, that's another question, because usually it's the chairs who were doing the interviewing. And since there isn't a formal chair for zoning board, that's also a question that's up in the air. So as term as process, I'm not entirely sure. That's something I would ask for Becky, but yeah.
All right. Well, I know that there's, you've been working on minutes, and, you've done a lot of work, and I know that you were also interested in filing and updating filing, but I would say that, I'm sure Mary would be willing to also help, setting up some work parties to work on filing. I know we need to do some we didn't finish all of the ANRAD files.
Yeah.
We need to do that. Maybe we could get a couple people together to do that.
Okay.
Erin Jock has her hand raised. Erin, hi, Erin.
Hi. I was just curious if you'd shared with the board about Lois Brown's dam project.
Oh, I did not. So under unanticipated business, this is very helpful. So thank you for that reminder. So Lois Brown, do you want to explain? Go ahead. This is your project. Please let us know.
Sure. Gosh, what was it, Miriam, that we met with Lois, what, like 2 years ago, maybe at this point? So Lois is my neighbor. She lives a few houses down from me. She owns the Dudleyville Pond Dam, and she's been struggling for decades basically to get this dam removed or made safe. And she enlisted my help about 2 years ago. Me and Miriam met with her in her kitchen trying to like brainstorm ideas for helping her out. And it took about well, at least a solid year of calling state and federal agencies, but we finally had a lead on some funding and submitted an application. What was it? Maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we submitted the application and we found out that her dam was selected. So it's part of a study of multiple dams that the Division of Ecological Restoration is funding. It's a study basically for all of the due diligence to remove it. So it's like an engineering study. So they go in, they do bathymetry analysis, they look at the structure itself, what has to happen, and they sort of basically design its removal. And once we get the study completed, that opens the door for actual funding for the construction part. So it's a huge win for Shutesbury. It's a huge win for Leverett. This dam is in really bad shape. Lois has been getting these threatening letters from the Office of Dam Safety for a very long time. So it's just, I feel like a win all around for getting it out because it's a serious public safety hazard at this point.
Erin, how is it going to interface with the downstream culvert under Montague Road, which also is great shape?
Yeah, we know that the upstream culvert and the downstream culvert for the unnamed upstream tributary of the Sawmill River, both of them are in really bad shape. I've had conversations with the town administrator about the need to replace those, and once the removal of the dam is designed and construction is coming down the line, the town's going to have to address those. Either have them assessed by an engineer to make sure that they're adequate to handle the flows that are coming into and out of the sort of reservoir that's there right now. And or, one of the recommendations was potentially apply for MVP funds to address their replacement. So yeah, it'll be very significant, those replacements. The stream that comes down from that location is, although it's unnamed, it's enormous. I think it's, oh gosh, I wish I had the numbers on the top of my head, but I want to say it's like 28 square acres or something crazy of land that it drains. It's a pretty significant watershed that contributes to that location.
It needs a name.
Well, congratulations on getting that done. Great job.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. Yeah, and I agree with you that the stream does need a name. It would be beautiful to name it like the something after the Brown family, because the Dudleyville Pond Dam has always anecdotally been, or the Dudleyville Pond has always been referred to as Brown's Pond. So it's kind of, it'd be kind of nice to give it a name.
Brown Brook.
Yeah, Brown Brook.
Sounds good. Okay, well, that's wonderful, and thank you, and congratulations on that. It's nice when funding comes through once in a while. Scott's clapping. All right, I think we're done for tonight. So our next meeting is Monday, the 18th. This coming Monday at 6 o'clock is our public hearing. So look forward to that. And thank you, everybody, for tonight.
Miriam,
Yes.
just for planning purposes, how long do you expect this meeting to go on Monday?
Well, what do you think, guys? Do we want to put a time limit on it? I would say a couple hours.
Okay.
I
How
don't think
about an
it's,
Trying
hour?
to
How about
gauge
an
it.
hour, an hour and a half? I think a couple hours is kind of long.
well, we have to vote afterwards, so. I would.
Nah, that's true. That way,
no more
but I
than-
guess that's why we should limit the comment time. So we have time to
Yeah,
vote.
so we've done 2-minute comments. Do we still want to do 2-minute comments? 1 minute, I think 1 minute's cutting people off.
I like 2 minutes, and I don't know, part of me feels that having time to, I want to make sure we have time to hear from everyone, especially given how compressed this is, and then try to take it to town meeting. I think having more time, just make sure we're here, give everyone adequate time to get their comments out so we can make sure the draft we're bringing is well vetted. So I'd like it to be done by Tuesday.
Can we make sure, Carrie, I see your hand raised, that they give us the Zoom account with the big group? Zoom
Yeah,
account?
I saw the Zoom link is already posted. Actually, if it's, let me see if I can. I thought it was posted. What to do? Oh, I can't pull it up fast enough. I thought it was posted. I can double check, and if it's posted on the one that I have access to, then yes, it will have that large capacity. But
Would you-
I think we're like the only one on the agenda on Monday, I believe.
Okay.
So
Would you
that
just
should
double
be.
check? I don't want to have, we don't have time to reschedule this public hearing, so we want to make sure that we aren't leaving anybody out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. You will check on that. All right. And all right, so 2 hours. Hopefully they'll do it. Okay. All right, well, I move that we adjourn at 7:34. David,
Bye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
Aye.
and Con.
Hi.
All right, thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.